Hello everyone and welcome to the part 2 of the block clone project. So our basic file setup is now completed from part 1 and the next step is to set up our model. So we have a model.py file inside of our blog application, and personally I think it's always a good idea for a first step when creating a new project to create that models.py file and actually set up those models. Because really, if you are using class based views, those are going to dictate the whole way your site works. So I think models are a great starting point, but really you should feel free to choose whatever feels like the most natural starting point to you. So maybe you like thinking about it from a urls.py views to model standout point instead of the reverse way, which is the way I am going to do it here. Once you have done enough project, you will have a natural flow. So don't feel like that I'm writing here is written in uh, stone like that. I personally prefer doing the models first, but really it's totally up to you. With all that being said, let's hop over to the editor and get started on that models.py file. Okay, so here I am at my models.py file underneath the blog application, and what I am going to do is start setting up settings.py, the models that we are eventually going to use in our views and in our URLs. Since I will be using class based views for the post, it's good idea to just set up the models that way. So it's much easier to connect them when we are actually working with the views. So there is a few more things I need to import before we get started on this. I'm going to say from Django.utils import time zone, and that's just all lowercase. And then I'm also going to import the reverse function. So we have seen it before, and it will make more sense when we are actually dealing with the class based views and the function based views that we'll see later on. But right now I will just import it and we'll see how to work with it in a little bit. So it's from Django.core URL resolvers import reverse, and if we do not have it right now, eventually when we are working with using the URLs, we would see some sort of error that says, hey, maybe you should add a reverse method to your class. So the first thing is going to connect to a model in our database. So I will create a class and I am going to call it post, and it will inherit from models. Okay, so models dot model, and I'm going to have a couple of fields here or attributes. I will have an author, title, text, creation date, and a publication date. And I'm going to be able to create a post, but maybe not publish it right anyway. So if I want to have stuff as draft, I will be able to do that. So I will say author is equal to model, and this will be a foreign key. And I am going to pass in here a dot user, auth dot user. And so later on, when we deal with multi-user project, we'll actually be following the sort of design. But since we only expect one person to really come in and have power over this blog as far as updating or having drafts and maybe even putting in comments and approving them. What we are going to do is just directly link an author to an authorization user. So when we create a super user, that's basically going to be someone who can author new post, and then the title for post is going to be models dot, and that's going to be a character field. Character fields, and we will give it a max length of 200 characters. So really, totally uh, arbitrary choice here. And then we will have a text field to the actual text of that blog post, and that's going to be models. And we will have a text field there, and I would not put a max length or anything because I don't know how long my text is going to be. And then finally we'll have two date fields. So we will have a created date and that's going to be models that a date time field, models dot date time field. And the default for that is going to be time zone dot now. So that's why I had an import from Django utils import time zone. And if you go to your actual settings.py file, so coming over here to settings.py quickly, it actually over here in this new tab, if you start scrolling down eventually, what you are going to see is somewhere it should define what time zone you are in. So the internationalizations, I have my language in English, and you can see I have this UTC time zone. You can change it according to your country. So whatever time zone makes the most sense for you, okay, it's some sort of code for your time zone. And basically what's going to happen is that you are writing a post and you are decide to say, oh, I created this post, right now it goes to default to your created this post at the current time zone. But for the publication date, we are going to say published date is equal to models dot date time field blank, because maybe you don't want to publish it. Okay, so it could also be null. Maybe you don't have any publication date whatsoever, so you can either leave it blank or have it just be null, meaning it can be empty, and that will make more sense when we actually start creating posts. And again, you have a lot of options here. You don't have to do everything the way I am doing it, but this kind of makes sense for the way we are going to set up our project. And then finally we are going to have a couple of methods on this. So one method that we need to do is actually set up the publication date method. So I will say you can have a method called publish on this post, and any method inside a class should take shell. I'm going to kind of collapse the tree and this terminal so we get a little more space here to work with, and I will say publish self, and that's going to happen is I am going to grab my actual published date attribute and then say uh, equal to timezone timezone dot now, and then I will say self dot save. So what does this actually mean? Well, remember that when I create a date, it doesn't matter. I always default to the current time. I hit create, which makes sense. You cannot really edit a creation date, so you will say, okay, I am creating a new blog post. Hit that button. The date of that blog post being created is the current time, but the published date can be blank and it can also be null. When I am ready to hit publish, there will be a publish button, and then when I hit that post button, then it will eventually say, okay, right now when you hit publish, it is the current time and I'm going to save that. So that's kind of all done automatically for you. The creation date automatically by this one line publish date, and since that's going to be linked to another button or function, so we'll just paste it as a method mentioned here. Now post can have comments on them. So we'll create another method called approve underscore comments. That's going to be self, and then all this is going to do is say return self comments, and I will filter it by approved. Let's see, let's make it approved with a true comment. Okay. Eventually, I'm going to have a list of comments somewhere. Some of them are going to be approved comments. So what I'm going to do is grab those comments, filter them by saying, okay, is this a truly approved comments, and then I can show them along with the post that anyone that visits the website. And then finally, if any model, it's always a good idea to have some sort of string representation of it. So we'll say str pass self, and what makes the more sense for a post is the actual title. So we'll say self title, and I'm going to save this. Eventually we are going to have to do is use this reverse method. So we'll kind of cross that path once we get there. So right now I will leave it blank, but we definitely are not done with the post class. But what I want to do, since the actual comment class is going to look so similar to this, it's a good idea that we kind of take care of it right now. So I'm going to create a new class called comments, and it's going to look really similar to what we just created. So it's also going to be a post. You can almost think of these as almost like mini post. So it is a foreign key, and it's going to come from blog post, and we'll give it a related name of comment. And that will make more sense when we start dealing with the actual views that have to do with the comments. So basically, this line is going to connect each comment to an actual post, much in the same way that if you come up here, we connected the author to an actual authorization user. Each comma is going to be connected to a blog application post, and then the author will say models dot care field, and we are just going to have anyone kind of write their own name in there. So say a maximum length of I don't know 200, even though it's uh, probably a lot but not a big deal. So we'll have the text of the comment be really similar. We'll say models dot text field, no constraint there, and then we are also have a created date, and this will be models that a date time field, and the default is going to be time zone. uh, uh, Not now. It's kind of makes sense. A comment, once they hit create, that comment, that date time field gets put into place, and then finally, instead of a publication process, we have an approved comments process. So it will say approved comment singular is equal to models dot, and this is going to be boolean field. So true or false, is it approved or not? And default is going to be false, that I have not approved this comment yet. So let's save that right now. So just as a quick review of what we have, it's almost the same as if we come up there and post class, but we have a common class. Its post is connected to a post, so each comment align of a post. We have an author to it, which is just going to be basically what anyone wants. You can just write that in note that the author of the comment is not the same as the author of the post, nor is it a foreign key. It's basically just someone typing in who wrote it. So John Doe can come in and just say, hey, I am going to post this comment here, and I'm fill in my name, and it will just be a character field. And then we are going to come up here, say text model, that text field, the creation date, and then approved comment. And what I have to do is make sure that this approved comments is the same as approved comments here. So either they should both be plural or both be singular. So basically what I mean is they should both be the exact same thing. So here I said approved comments. I think earlier I said add an in here since I am having this one singular. So let's actually just have them both be singular. So keep that in mind. Have a little typo there. So they should both match. So either they both have an S or they both have a no S. Okay, so moving along, what I am going to do is create a few methods here. I will create a approved method self and we'll say soft dot approved underscore comments and we will say set that equal to true. This is essentially just like that publication method. We worked on that post and we'll say self dot save. And then what I am going to do here, say diff create some sort of string representation, say self, and then say return self dot text. I'm going to save this now. And so basically we have the main skeletons of a comment and a post, and hopefully you can see that they are almost the exact same thing, except that a post its authors connected to an actual super user on the website and its publication date is kind of analogous to the approval date of the comments where a comments post is linked foreign key whilst to an actual post. And then we have this author which is going to be basically anyone can just write their name in. Now to actually finish off this models.py, we still have to worry about the get absolute URL methods. We have seen this before in the class based views lectures, but now it's time to actually use this. And what we are going to do is take advantage of this reverse function. Basically, the whole idea behind this is after someone creates a post or a comment, where should the website take them? So what we are going to do is use those detail views for the post and we will use some function views for the comments. But let's start off with this post class and I'm going to say over here it says approved comments. So I will say df and define that have that get absolute your URL method and it has to be called get underscore absolute underscore URL. This is something that Django actually looks for. You can't call it something else. And so it's saying, all right, once you have created an instance of this post, what should I do? Well, we are going to say return and call the reverse. Hopefully, remember that we also talked a little bit about reverse lazy earlier on, but right now we just needed reverse and we'll have some sort of view that is a detail view, meaning we will have eventually a post detail URL. And then something we are also going to add is a keyword argument dictionary or KWARGS equal to that's going to be dictionary where the primary key matches up with self PO self.pk. All this is saying is after I create a post, so I'm done creating it and I hit some sort of publication. Where should I go? Well, go to that post detail page for the primary key or the post that you have just created. Makes sense. It will make more sense when we actually create the view for it. And if this is a little confusing for you, definitely refer back to those class-based views lecture. And scrolling down, we are going to do something really similar to the comment. And in this case, what we are going to do is say df define. Now, since a comment needs to be approved by a super user, it doesn't make sense to actually go back to a list of the comments. Instead, what we are going to do is say once that person is done typing in that comment, they are going to go back to the list of all the posts. It's kind of up to you what kind. what you think is most reasonable. Maybe you could save them, go back to the actual post detail itself, but we'll just have them since the comment actually needs to be approved before displaying there. We'll have to go back to that main home page of all the post list. So I will say the f gets define get absolute URL underscore absolute URL self, and I am going to return as a reverse call to post post underscore list. That's going to be a list view, and we'll actually going to use that as the home page. So the home page of this website is going to be just a list of all the posts. All right. So this actually seems like a really natural stopping point for part 2. So that's what we are going to do. So we'll just end it here. But that's it for the models.py file. We would not need to mess around or edit anything else. So as a quick review before we hang on to or before we go on to the next lecture. So we have created two class here or two models, the post model and the comment model. Comment model is almost like a baby brother or a baby sister to the post where we just have the author, the titles, the text, and then some sort of creation date and some sort of publication date. In the comments, we have the post which connects to the comment post, which connects to an actual post, the author which just some character field so anyone can type in their name, and then we have the creation date and the approval date, and that's really all there is to it. So we also have these absolute URL method, which once you have created a comment or a post tells a website where to go back to, and that's basically it.